My name is Bobby Vaughn, and I was born in Maud, Oklahoma in 1938. And my family moved from there to Illinois. And then we came back to Bartlesville, Oklahoma, where I really grew up and finished my schooling. My parents, Ruby and Freeman Vaughn, and my dad, Freeman, worked in the oil field in Illinois until he was injured and could no longer do that. And his father was a preacher, so he went back to school and became a preacher in various little communities around Bartlesville. He would fill in for individuals, and when they needed a preacher, why, he'd go over, and we would all go, family would load in the car and go over and spend the day, because it usually back then you just kind of went over there and stayed until evening services, and then we came home. And I had absolutely no intentions of ever being a preacher. Not because I didn't like it, because my grandfather was and my father was a preacher. My grandfather, W.T. Vaughn, was I don't know, you call him an itinerant preacher. He held gospel meetings at various places around Oklahoma and Texas. And then my father, when he became a preacher, he was around, all of his places that he preached were around Bartlesville, Oklahoma. I went to college, met this young lady, and she said, I came here to marry a preacher. And I said, there's no need of us dating, because I'm not going to be a preacher. So we broke up. And then, lo and behold, I decided I needed to convince her that she could marry somebody else other than a preacher. And so we dated, finally married. And then I came to Rogers, Arkansas, and how we got here was the fact that my two sisters and my mother and father lived in Rogers, and we came over for Thanksgiving one year, and my sister said, well, when are you going to move to Rogers? And I said, well, when you get us a job. Well, my sister went out, and she came back in a little bit and had an application for Walmart. And so my wife filled out the application for Walmart, and they said, well, we're 2 years out. We went back home, and in February of the next year, she got a call from Walmart. And so she came on over, she got hired, and so she started working for Walmart. And myself and 4 children, we had 5, and one of them was already out and in college, but 4 of us were still at home. And we still lived in Tulsa, and we finished out the school year, and then we moved over here to be with my wife. And I got a job as substituting, because I tried to get hired at Rogers, and they said they hire strictly from the substitute list. And I said, okay. So I substituted. But in the meantime, to supplement our salary, I worked for a man named Sam Fleming in Rogers, doing construction work and remodeling. But I substituted during the day and taught school. Substituted during the day, and then worked on remodel jobs that Sam had at night. And pretty soon after so many years, so many months of substituting, I went to the assistant principal in charge of substitutes and said, look, this is killing me. I can't substitute and do construction work at the same time. Have I taught long enough that I could be considered for a job? And he said, yes. I started teaching in Oklahoma in 1967, but came here in 1987 when I started teaching substituting. And so I got a call from the assistant superintendent, Russell Jones, and he said, we've got an opening for a job in Garfield, Arkansas. And he said, if you'll go up there and you'll stay a year or two, why we can transfer you into town. And I tell everybody, I came up here and I was here 30 minutes and I says, I'm not going to town. I love this place. Enjoyed the opportunity I had to work with the people up here, meet them. And so I was half-time principal, half-time teacher. And at that time I taught science and English, and then was the principal half a day.
Tell me more.
Okay, and it was quite an ordeal of being half-time, and so I finally decided that I couldn't keep doing that. So I asked the superintendent at that time if there was any possibility of it becoming a full-time job, and they said no, it would never be a full-time job at Garfield, just didn't have enough students. So I said, then I need to transfer to town. And so when I left here, I went to work at Eastside Elementary, and I taught there for 2 or 3 years, and then they opened up Jones, brand new school, and I transferred to Jones. And the irony to the whole thing is the new principal at Jones used to be the counselor at Garfield when I was principal out here, and so I got to work with her again, and so I stayed at Jones until I retired, and just had thoroughly enjoyed my teaching experience. But one of the days when I was principal out here, one of the teachers came in and said, the mayor of Garfield would like to speak to you. And I said, okay. So I couldn't figure out what to do. I didn't run any stoplights, didn't have stoplights. But anyway, I went out to visit with him, and come to find out he was one of the elders of the Garfield Church of Christ. And he said, our minister is in poor health. Would you consider, I graduated from Oklahoma Christian College, would you consider filling in on the days that he's just unable to preach? And I said, yeah, I'll do that. So anyway, came out here a couple of times and preached, and then didn't hear from him. So I just thought that had gone by the wayside. And then one morning he was back, and come to find out their preacher had passed away during open heart surgery, and he wanted to know if I could fill in until they found somebody. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. And so I'd been up here about, a month maybe, preaching, and got here, and the elder said they'd like to meet with me. And I said, okay. So we came in and met in this very room right here. And they said, well, we would like to announce that we had found our preacher. Although I had said all along I didn't want to be a preacher, I was thoroughly enjoying the job that I had been given and the opportunity I'd been given. So my heart sunk. And one of them punched another and said, see, I told you wouldn't know what we were talking about. And I said, well, yeah, you found somebody, although you haven't had anybody in to try out. How do you know you found your preacher? And they said, we want you to be our preacher. And I said, okay, I'll take it. So the joke around this congregation, and still is, you're just filling in for 35 years. And so it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience that I've had. My family, all of our kids were gone at the time, but out to college and out doing their various things in the world. But anyway, it's been an experience that I have thoroughly enjoyed. I love this community. I love the school, and still do whatever I possibly can to with the school. And during one of the times that we were, I was still principal out here, there's a building on the back that had been abandoned, and it was fallen in. I literally had contacted a company to find out about tearing it down so that we could have it for part of our playground and all of the other parts of it. And so one of the parents came to me and she said, "Have you ever thought about remodeling that building back there and making it part of the school?" And I said, "No." "Well, why don't you do that?" And this is the honest to goodness truth. I finally contacted somebody, the not a development company, to see if it could be restored. Actually, just did it to satisfy her, hopefully, and maybe she would stop hounding me about restoring that building. Well, I didn't get the answer I wanted. She got the answer she wanted, because this company came in and said, "Yeah, it can be restored, but here's what we would plan to do," because it was just the outer shell was all that was there. And so what they did is we literally built a school inside of it, concrete blocks. We poured the foundation, and the community came together to build that and to pay for it. And what happened was, if it remained in the school district, we'd have to go through all of the bid process. So their recommendation was to ask the school district to deed it over to the Garfield School Restoration Committee. And there were several people on the board and all, and so that's what they did. So that way we could take volunteer help. And there was a lot of volunteer help. People came up here evenings. They came up here at weekends. In fact, as we were raising money, and we were getting it done faster than the money was coming in. And Arvest Bank gave us a loan to finish the building, and then we could, continue to raise money and pay them back. And so we restored that building down there, and a long-time person from this community, Dorothy Ross, we determined that we wanted to name that building after her, because she taught in this. She went to this school, she taught in this school, and she was still living in this community, and she would substitute any and every time we could. And if she wasn't substituting, she would go around. The teachers would set 2 chairs outside their room, and she would read to the kids or have the kids read to her. And so she was still very active in the school, so we named it after her. And the community came together. I mean, we had that playground full of folding chairs, and people from all over the area came in to honor her, and we kept it a secret from her. We had 2 brochures. One brochure just said that we were dedicating this building, and the second set of brochures was the fact that it had her name on it, and she did not know it until we actually announced that this is what. And 2 of her sons, one, Bob Ross, taught in Rogers School District for many years, and so he was on the committee, and his brother David. And so as time progressed, it was a wonderful relationship that this community has with that school. And so as we've gone along, I've fallen in love with it, and although I'm out here, I don't substitute anymore. I started teaching out here in '88, and then taught until I taught 1 year, just taught, and then the principal that was here at that time moved into town, and then I applied for and got the job as the principal, halftime principal, halftime teacher. And then I did that until '98. And so total of 10 years that I was at Garfield. And then it was one of those situations that halftime principal and halftime teacher was just taxing, and so I finally asked the district if they would make it a full-time job, and they turned me down, and so I transferred to Eastside and worked at Eastside for a few years before Jones was opened up. And when Jones was opened, why I moved over to Jones and I taught fourth and fifth grade science and reading to my homeroom class. But I taught fourth and fifth grade science. The kids would rotate into my classroom and I'd teach science, and we had all kinds of critters, as the kids called them, in the classroom, and they would help take care of those critters, and anywhere from snakes to lizards and you name it, fish. So it was something for them to be a part of, the kids, and they took hold of that. And I'd have kids that would, after they'd gone from elementary into middle school, they'd come back after school to continue to take care of the critters, as I called them. And so my teaching has been a wonderful experience. And and I'll be honest, when I started college, I had no intentions of being a teacher. But I had an uncle that was a teacher, and he said, you ought to consider it. When I got out of the service, he said, you ought to consider going into teaching. And so I did, and have never regretted it. This is the heart of the community, basically, because the people in this area are 100% behind the school. They want to keep this school as much as they possibly can, and I understand that there's some financial situations that the district has to deal with. But anyway, I think there's still opportunities for it to grow and continue to blossom, because this community is the school and the community go hand in hand, helping one another. Anytime we needed any kind of a fundraiser or anything like that. And to remodel that building back there was well over $100,000. And this community came together to raise that money. And we got down to the last part of it, and then one of the community members' son passed away, and in honor of his son, they paid off the rest of that note. So from the community, school district didn't have to bear the burden of remodeling that building. The community did it, and because of the love that they have for the school. And there's all kinds of markers on this building where people have, when they put up rock or they put up something, they would chisel their names into it. People would, in honor of those people, not vandalism. It was in honor of them. This building, this school, is the oldest continually operating school in the state of Arkansas. And at one time, I went to a principal's meeting in Little Rock, and they were talking about concerns that they had, and I was sitting toward the back, and everybody kept asking these questions of what they wanted to talk about and everything like that. And everything that I wanted to talk about was already on the board, so I didn't have anything. And I just said, well, I'm very concerned about the high cost of firewood that it takes to heat our building. And the place just roared. And the man says, wait a minute, Bobby is serious. His building is heated with firewood. And they couldn't believe that there was a school that still did that. And there was a fenced area, and a man and his boys would come by ever so often and chop the wood, and he'd help the kids get over there, and they'd stack the firewood to keep it up. Had two boilers, one for the main building and one for an addition and the part of the gym and that part of it. So it has a lot of history. It has a lot of history that the people love, and they really, they're just behind it 100%. And so when the school district, and I think in the back of their minds, they knew that this was coming, the parents, the community, it still breaks their heart. It doesn't make it any easier that they want to close it and shut it down. But I think that the efforts that are being made to go to a charter school is going to satisfy what this community needs, because we've always said, you do away with the school, you do away with this community, because that's what brings people in. And no, we don't have a lot of things that can draw people in community to work. And we've got some convenience stores, and we got this and we got that, but we don't have the work for people to come. When they live out here, they're going someplace else to work. People used to say, when I was living in when I was living in Rogers, I came to Garfield to work, and I said, well, the beautiful thing is the traffic's going the other direction when I'm coming out here, and at night when I'm going home, they're going home, so it's in the opposite direction. So it didn't take a long time for me to get back and forth, but thoroughly enjoyed it, and always loved it. When I started preaching here, needless to say, since I had not intended to become a preacher, I was scared to death. I had some real concerns, but as time progressed, why things worked out. I'm not a typist. When I was in college, I took typing. The teacher was a personal friend. He came to me one day and he said, Bobby, the best thing for you to do is to drop this class before you fail it and find you a sweet, precious young lady that knows how to type so that she can type all of your lessons and everything like this. And we were talking about school lessons then, because I was going to be a teacher. But she types my sermons, and I work them out, and then she sits down and types them, puts them on jump drive, and so the congregation gets to see a part of it. So we've grown. We have a lot of individuals that have difficulty hearing. And so I make copies, the entire lesson for them. And but it's something that I have thoroughly enjoyed doing. In fact, one of the last principals I had, she asked me how much I enjoyed being a minister. And I said, well, I can put it this way. If the superintendent were happen to come down and say, look, you can only have one job, you can't have two jobs and work for this school district, I said, I'd pull my keys out of this school building out of my pocket, drop them on your desk, walk out, and never look back, because I have thoroughly enjoyed what I'm doing. And I know I'm getting to the age that that probably is going to come to an end before long, because my health is not what it used to be. And so it's a congregation. I know people sometimes throw out the term family. This is a family. I mean, when one of us hurts, we all hurt. And it's just that we work together. It's a congregation that takes care of the needs of the people of this community and any community. We've had individuals from various other places that have needed help, and this congregation has helped them. And so
Can you think of some stories to tell, maybe of some things that your congregation has done over the years, maybe that stand out?
Well, there's quite a few of them, and we've had individuals, young people that wanted to go to preacher school, and we've supported these individuals, young people that want to be preachers. And this congregation has come together to support them, to help pay for their tuition, help pay for their living expenses where they go. And so they've done that. And then these individuals would go to various other places. We had one young man that we helped, and he lives in Oregon now. And so they go all over. And it isn't one of those, it isn't a one-time thing. Because what happens is that when that person graduates, then we take that money and try to find somebody else that we can help do the exact same thing. So it's a congregation that is growing from the standpoint of spiritually, but also helping others to grow spiritually in whatever way. We have individuals in the community that have lost loved ones and are needing some financial help. This congregation is always there. The thing of it is, the congregation is an elderly congregation, so we've lost numbers, but we haven't lost enthusiasm. We haven't lost our zeal to help. And even though there's fewer of us, when we first came here, my wife and I, it was not unusual for us to have 100 members. We're down to 60, but we still have the money and the assets to help other people in this community and any place else. We've sent missionaries and helped missionaries go to various places. We just recently helped a group of individuals build it's called a gospel chariot. It's a great big bus that goes into foreign countries, and they deliver it to foreign countries, and it I think it's $250,000 to build one of them, and this congregation was instrumental in helping. We didn't pay the whole thing, but we paid the biggest part of it, so that this facility or this vehicle could go into foreign countries. And I think this one went into Mexico. I'm not real sure, but they're all over. And but what I like and what I think is most important about this community and this church is the fact that they're always looking for some place to help. They're not sitting back on, and we're not trying to build up some enormous funds. We figure it's money that the Lord has given us, and we want to take the responsibility of using it wisely in His name, honor, and glory. And so we help wherever we can. And what happens is an individual in this congregation may know of some place and someone that's needing help. They bring it before the congregation, and then we try to make sure that it takes place. I think you get the idea that we love this community. Now, here's the irony. When I was principal out here, I lived in Rogers. And then we later moved to Garfield. And, of course, by then, I was in the final stages of my teaching. But I was out here with the community so that I could be with the community, go with the sick, go visit the sick, go help those that are shut in, go help do various things for various individuals. One of the most wonderful things that I will always remember is I was doing some remodeling on our house in Rogers, and I kept having trouble with my neck. Well, then they finally decided that they were going to have to operate. Well, I was right in the middle of this remodel job, and I didn't know what I was going to do, so I just kind of put tarps over everything and covered it up because I had to have the surgery. One morning at about 6:30, 7 o'clock, someone knocked on my door, and I went to the door, and there were 10 people from this congregation standing out there. And they said, "Where's your recliner?" And I said, "It's in the living room." Two men went in, got the recliner, took it out and set it out beside the house. And they stood there and they said, "Now, tell us what you want done." So I gave them the instructions, and they finished that remodeling project for me, for us, for our family. And so it's a giving, loving church. It's a giving and loving community. Because when like I said earlier, we were talking about doing that building down there. I mean, people would come after work and stay. We finally had floodlights up out there where we could work at night. They'd come on Saturdays. And I said, the only thing is, we will not work on Sunday. And say, okay, we can work around that. So, but the Rogers community came. Those that knew what was going on out here. So it's just a giving place and a giving group of people. the most loving, giving group. And if you want to be a part of a group of individuals that care for one another, that love one another, assist one another, then Northwest Arkansas is your place to be, because that's what, I can't tell a lot about other parts of Benton County, but I do know about Northwest Arkansas, Garfield and Rogers to be exact, because we've helped a lot of people. A lot of people have helped us and allowed us to grow and allow us to not only do the Lord's work, but also do the things that help other individuals. And by the way, when it comes to helping, we don't ask their religious background. We don't ask what if they have a need, then we help them. My favorite thing about Benton County would be the fact that the givingness, the love that they have for one another. When the bus stop, that was one of the original convenience stores, was open, Gary Buss and I became very close. When I first came out there, they said, you go to the bus stop, and I thought that's where the Greyhound bus stopped. It was the name of the man that owned it. I could go to him and say, I've got business cards, and if I sign a business card and give it to this person, you kind of know the standards of what we won't buy alcohol, we won't buy cigarettes, but we will take care of babies, we'll take care of whatever. Then I will come in the next week and pay for it. And so as this progressed and as this went on, people would come by here and ask for things. I didn't have to give them money. I could send them right down there, take them that, and I said, you walk in, you give this to the cashier at the bus stop, and they will take care of you. One day I went in there to pay, and Gary says, it's time for me to help. So you owe nothing for this one. So see, the community is close knit. They help one another. They like to assist in any way, shape, form, or fashion that they possibly could do. Now, Gary's gone from here. I don't. He's still around, but I haven't seen him in a long time. But people, what I like about them is the fact that this community sticks together and will help in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I would not hesitate if I had a small child and needed some assistance of going to someone in this community and asking for help, because I know what they would do. I know that they would care. Anyone from the mayor, whatever. And that's where we get a lot of our individuals that we know that need help. They'll come to the city and they want help, and so this congregation pitches in and does whatever it can. But that's true of the whole community. It's not just this church that does that. It's something, and I would say you can't find a better place